Hi, this is another episode of Straight Lions Talk. Uh, this is going to be talking about the NFL draft, what the Lions should do with their 23rd pick overall. We're going to talk about a few. It's probably the most important and probably everyone's favorite day is having the draft. Besides opening day, the playoffs, or if the Lions ever made it to a Super Bowl, then this is probably the biggest day of the year for the Lions. But you're going to get to the Super Bowl is the draft well. So let's talk about a few things. Who should the Lions draft is going to be a question we're going to ask. What are the biggest needs on the team? Guys we would like the Lions to stay away from. That was a big topic every year. Past drafts for the Lions and other teams. What happened last year and maybe some things we should look forward to in the future because we have some free agents and stuff to sign. Do you want the Lions to draft a cornerback in the first round or a running back? I'd like to stay away from both, but we'll get into that. With the release of the Lions schedule, do you think it should be offensive line? I don't know. I mean, logistically, a good offensive lines travel well. And we're going to talk about trading Calvin Johnson. Before everyone freaks out, Calvin Johnson trade, think about it a little bit, but we'll get into that. Okay. Who do you guys think the Lions should draft? We have the 23rd overall pick. We have no fourth round pick. We have 6 picks total. So you start looking at the mock drafts and everything the way it falls out. In my opinion, I would love to see the Lions take Cam Erving out of Florida State, the offensive lineman. That would be a huge, huge pick. But with that said, I'd also like to see the Lions possibly trade back and maybe acquire a few more picks. I think the Saints could be a team that could come up and want to maybe be a trade partner with us. The Cowboys maybe want to jump up and maybe take a running back if Todd Gurley's there or Melvin Gordon. And speaking of those two, if we had to draft a running back and that was Martin Mayhew's dream, I'd like them to take Melvin Gordon over Todd Gurley. I don't think Melvin Gordon is more talented than Todd Gurley. I just feel that Melvin Gordon is healthy. Todd Gurley is going to start the year on the PUP list, and he may or may not even play this year, depending on if the Lions want to use him. But the talent there is tremendous for Todd Gurley. If he hadn't gotten hurt and he falls to 20, you'd take him all day. But I do think you can find value in the later rounds like we've seen. The running back position has been devalued so much in the NFL over the past few years that I don't feel like you have to take a running back in round 1. So I think the Lions set in a good position to trade back, and that's ultimately what I'd like to see them do. So if they could do that, acquire maybe a second, a third round pick, or if they trade out of the first round and maybe acquire an extra first next year, that would be excellent because the meat of this draft, in my opinion, is basically from 20 to the end of the third round. That's the meat of the draft. That's where all the players are. They're from 20 on, they're kind of all the same. There's not really too many game changers. And I know you're going to see guys later on a few years from now that end up being more successful than maybe some guys that are picked the first 20 picks. But the way it lays out, there's not that much difference in talent. So if I was picking in the first round, they stay at 23, I would like to see them take Cam Erving out of Florida State with our first pick, the offensive lineman. I would love that. He's very versatile. He can get to the second level. That's something we haven't seen in 14 years with Dominic Raiola. He can play multiple positions. He can play left tackle or right tackle if we needed him in a pinch, but he could play center or guard. And with that versatility, that would be just an excellent pick. The kid was all ACC left tackle, all ACC center 2 years running, and he switched positions his senior year and was still with a dominant center. He can get into the linebackers, which will help our running game. He can pull certain things that Dominic Raiola just couldn't do. I mean, we've all had our Dominic Raiola stories. We just we'd like to. I'm glad he's gone. It's been something that needs to be done for years. But with that said, if we do trade back and Cam Erving's gone, which he could be, Cam Erving could be gone anyway with that pick. I think if he's gone, and there's not another dominant offensive tackle there, in which there isn't really a dominant offensive tackle in this draft, but if there's not a good lineman there, I think they should trade back. And if they do trade back, I think they should take Philip Dorsett out of University of Miami wide receiver. If they trade back, and it's a little bit early for him, but that guy is flying up draft boards right now. He's been projected in the late second, mid-second. I guess it depends on if the team likes him. But if he's there, I would love to see the Lions take him with the Saints 30th pick. That would be an excellent choice, and he'd fit our offense spectacular. But we'll get into him in the second round because he's another player I'd like to take in the second round. But I forgot to mention, I'd like to see also at 23, if Randy Gregory's there, if they did their homework on him, and marijuana is the top problem with him, if he has good work ethic and he likes football as much as, let's say, someone like Michael Irvin, who partied hard, smoked marijuana, did drugs, things of that nature, I would really like to see them maybe possibly take Randy Gregory with that pick at 23. But they'd have to do their homework and find out if he loves football, and that this isn't going to become a bigger issue years down the road. But again, with that said, I really feel that Randy Gregory, defensive end out of Nebraska, could be boom or bust. I think you're going to find out in 3 years he's going to be a 10-sack-a-year guy, 15-sack-a-year guy, or he's going to be out of the league. So it's a total risk pick. But if you put him with Kyle Van Noy, Ezekiel Ansah, DeAndre Levy, and Haloti Ngata, and our rest of our defensive line, and with Terrell Austin there, if I would like to, if he can come up with a way you could use him. If you're Jim Caldwell, you have to look over and say, hey, can we use him in certain packages? Can you make him fit in our defense? If he's emphatic about it, then yes. And with that said, if Randy Gregory has all these off-the-field problems, and Jim Caldwell is our head coach, isn't Jim Caldwell supposed to be the player whisperer? Isn't he supposed to be able to take care of all these problems for all these guys? And maybe he can, and if he could, that'd be great, because you could get a top 5, top 10 talent in the mid-20s, possibly in the second round. They're talking now too. If you could do that, you're talking a guy like Randy Moss that fell because he smoked marijuana. Now, if he has that great talent, yeah, I think we have to take him. I mean, the guy comes around the corner and he gets his shoulder right on the ground. He has great speed, closing speed. He can play in coverage. I guess you're just going to have to do, Lions are just going to have to do their homework. Hopefully they did their homework on him. And if he's sitting there, there can be a big conversation about maybe we should take him. But with all that said, in the first round, I still like, with the 23rd pick, if they stay put, is Cam Erving, center out of the University of Florida State. Okay, let's go into the second round now. Now this gets a little trickier because, like I said, in my opinion, I think that's the meat of the draft, second, third round. I think that's where all the players are the same and you're getting very good quality players. So in the second round, I'd love to see the Lions take Philip Dorsett out of the University of Miami. I think that guy, he's Randall Cobb, but faster. He loves football. He understands routes. He catches everything. He caught 10 touchdowns last year. He averaged 20 yards a catch, but he caught 10 touchdowns with the University of Miami's quarterback. Now, I don't know about you guys. I can't name that guy, and I watch a lot of football. So can you imagine if he had a decent quarterback, let's say Marcus Mariota or a Jameis Winston or anyone like that throwing him the football? Can you imagine the numbers he would have? He probably would have caught 20 touchdown passes. How many throws were thrown over him? Or just bad throws, or a guy couldn't get the ball to him. I would love to see the Lions take Philip Dorsett with that pick. But if Philip Dorsett's not there, which he might not be, so, I mean, you kind of got to maybe have to trade up to get him if you really, really like him. And I love this guy. I think this guy's going to be a 10-year pro. He reminds me of Santana Moss. He's Randall Cobb with speed. This guy runs 4.2, but he runs 4.2 all the time. It's just not because he's just not running fast like the 40-yard dash. he's running fast all the way through his routes. And if you watch him, he plays fast on the field all the time. I mean, he tracks the ball so well. You could set a can of beer on top of his head, and he never would spill a drop because his head stays so straight when he runs. And I think that gives him the ability to catch balls that other receivers can't on the deep throws. But if he wasn't there, I don't think this receiver is going to be there. But Nelson Aguilar out of the University of USC or University of Southern California, I think he would be a great pick. But I think he's going to end up going in the first round. He is flying up draft boards right now. If we stayed there and we didn't take Cam Erving with the first pick, or even if we did, we still need more help on the inside on guard and tackle. I wouldn't mind taking A.J. Kane out of South Carolina, the offensive lineman. But I would, if we took Cam Erving round 1, I would not want to take A.J. Kane, I believe. I would like to have us take Duke Johnson, Philip Dorsett's teammate at the University of Miami, because we need help at running back. As much as I like Joyce Bell, he still needs help. Today's NFL, there's an interesting stat by a guy named Scott Bischoff, which is the person that put me onto this player. He's on Twitter at Scott Bischoff _ He is just a fabulous running back. Game changer, breakaway speed. He does everything well. One cut, great vision, catch the ball out of the backfield. He can block. He's more than a third down back. You could build packages around him. And Joyce Bell still has a role on the team, and I like Theo Riddick, but let's all get real. We're not going to go into the season as Theo Riddick as our number 2 back. We can't. So, to clarify this, if Philip Dorsett is gone, I think they should take Duke Johnson. But Philip Dorsett would be my pick in the second round if he's there. And if the Lions didn't take Cam Erving in the first round, or they traded out in the first round, I would like them to take either Trey Jackson, offensive lineman out of Florida State, or A.J. Kane, offensive lineman out of South Carolina. And I know anyone that watches this may say, why would you want to take so many offensive linemen? With our schedule the way it is logistically, we travel a ton this next season. An offensive line travels well. A defensive line travels well. Our defensive line isn't as bad a shape as everyone thinks. Losing Sue was huge. Losing Nick Fairley, I don't know. We lost a very talented player, but didn't show the talent all the time. So, now, with that said, I'm going to make a prediction right here. I think Nick Fairley's going to have a monster year next year because he's playing on a 1-year show-me contract. And I think he's just going to blow up. The same thing he did at Auburn. Showed all this talent. His senior year came, and he decided to play, and he was probably the best. Well, he wasn't probably. He was the best defensive player in the nation, and he dominated that national championship game against Oregon. He's the main reason they won that game, and he's the main reason they won a lot of games. And he showed those flashes with the Lions. They just weren't consistent. So, to clarify, if the Lions don't take Cam Erving, I think they should take an offensive lineman in the second round. But in the second round, I'd like to see them take Philip Dorsett, wide receiver, out of the University of Miami. Okay, let's get into the third round. In the third round, I think we're going to have to... I hope the Lions did their homework. This is usually where Martin Mayhew's made some hay the last couple of years. He took Travis Swanson. He took Larry Warford. 2 good offensive linemen. Now, a minute ago in the second round, I said they should take Trey Jackson in the second if they hadn't taken Cam Erving. Now, if they take Cam Erving, they take, let's say, Philip Dorsett or Duke Johnson in the second, and Trey Jackson sitting there that late, that is tremendous value. He's 6'4", 235. He's a great offensive lineman. He's quick, athletic. With that said, if A.J. Kane slips, that guy is extremely athletic. I would love to see the Lions be able to maybe get that guy that slips like they have in the last couple of years, and possibly they could make a run at maybe getting a guy like Trey Jackson. That would be tremendous value there on that pick. And like I said, offensive lines play well. And we had a lot of injuries last year on our offensive line. and an offensive line travels well. So that wouldn't break my heart if we took that player there. Now, another thing Martin Mayhew likes to do in years past, everyone always says we should take all these cornerbacks, and I would ask you to go through and look at prior drafts and all the cornerbacks we were supposed to take. D. Milner instead of Ezekiel Ansah. Now, which one would you rather have? And all the cornerbacks we were supposed to take and we didn't, and see where they're at right now. They're not very good. And Martin Mayhew's done a really decent job. He took Bill Bentley. He's taken Nevin Lawson, who I really like. I think that guy's going to be an animal. And he took Darius Slay in the second round when everyone thought we should have taken D. Milner instead of Ezekiel Ansah. So he's done a very good job of getting value out of that position late in rounds. And this could be another one. He could take P.J. Williams out of Florida State. And I know everyone's saying, why are you taking all these Florida State guys? Because they're sweet. They're fast, athletic. They're great football players. You want great football players, you have to go to the big schools and to the schools that are in national title games and things of that nature. So I wouldn't mind if they took P.J. Williams, but a lot of people have him sliding back. I think he has some off-the-field issues. But you might be able to get him in the 5th round or 4th if we happen to maybe trade back and acquire some picks with that first pick, if we trade back with our first pick. Another guy could possibly be Michael Bennett, the defensive tackle out of Ohio State. I don't know really how I feel about him. He's a good football player. I think you're getting a rotation guy that can step right in, but I don't know if he'll ever be any more than just a rotation guy. So with that said, I would like to see the Lions take offensive linemen, maybe the best offensive lineman sitting right there with our 3rd round pick. And I'd have to think that either A.J. Kane or Trey Jackson may be there, but there could be a run in the 2nd round on those. I guess we'll find out in a couple of days. And that a lot of teams have Trey Jackson moving up in that round. So I would like, with that said, I would say Trey Jackson. I think he'll be there. If the Lions can take him, and even if they take Cam Irving, that would give them a solid nucleus at the offensive line position. We don't have a 4th round pick, and I hope we trade. If we trade back, I don't know how much value is there in the 4th round, but we'll just skip that for right now, and we'll just jump right into the 5th round. The 5th round, with not having a 4th round pick, we really need to take some value, a guy that can play or has had success in college in the past. I think we need to take a guy that's proven, not like we took Larry Webster last year, which I've heard good things about, but I don't know. You know, we don't know how he's going to pan out. He's either going to pan out with someone like Willie Young in the 7th round, sat a couple years, played sporadically, and had some success, and he's a solid football player. Now, if Larry Webster can develop into that, that's great, because we don't need all pros at every position. That'd be great. That's how you build the Dallas Cowboys. But in the past Dallas Cowboy teams in the 90s. But if they think they need to take a player that has some college credentials to back up that position. That seems to be what the Packers do, and other teams, maybe the Baltimore Ravens, and maybe the Cincinnati Bengals, who've drafted exceptionally well over the last few years. I think they have like 35 guys on their roster that they've drafted, and I think 20 to start. That's awesome. But with that said, I'd like to see them take a guy like maybe Nick O'Leary, again, of the University of Florida, or Florida State University. He's a tight end, and I know we took Eric Ebron last year, but Brandon Pettigrew caught something like 10 balls last year. Now, he's a great blocking tight end, but you can get those. I mean, Mike Williams, the guy, offensive lineman, who's trying to be an offensive lineman, he could play that position and catch a couple balls. But if Nick O'Leary's there, that's a talented football player that's going to be a lot like Todd Heap in the NFL. That's success, and we need to be able to attack down the middle of the field. And if Eric Ebron ends up becoming half of Vernon Davis, and you had Nick O'Leary another option, that just gives Matt Stafford more options, and he's a solid football player. Without having a 4th round pick, we really need to make this pick stick. Now, that's just an option. Another player that would really I wouldn't be all mad if we took would be Jeremy Langford out of Michigan State University. I was shocked. Unless you're a huge Michigan State fan, I didn't know Jeremy Langford was that fast. I am actually a little bit astonished by how fast that guy was. And he was highly productive at Michigan State, and you've seen what Le'Veon Bell's done in the pros. Even if we took Duke Johnson, we need depth at running back, and I think he'd be a great option because Joique Bell's contract's up in, I think, next year or maybe the year after. So if he played a small role or could beat out Theo Riddick, he catches the ball well in the backfield. He can block. He played in a pro-style system with Michigan State. Tons of success. Played against top competition. I just like the guy. I think he's going to be good. A solid pro. And that's what you need. That's a Patriot pick right there. Someone like Jeremy Langford. Another guy, too, Ty Montgomery, wide receiver out of Stanford. That guy just put up numbers quietly. He's that guy that comes into the pros, and you're like, oh, where did he play? And you say, oh, Stanford. Oh, that's right. So if Ty Montgomery was there, that would be a good pick, too. I wouldn't be all mad about that. There's also that cornerback out of Oregon. Now, if I mispronounce his name, I'm sorry. Ifo Ekpir Olan, whatever his name is. He was pretty talented, has a knee injury. I don't know how it's set. I mean, that'd be kind of a reach pick there. That would be on the bottom half. But if I had to take a guy, I think I would take Jeremy Langford, especially if we happen to take Philip Dorsett in the second round and Langford sitting there. What a great pick in the 5th round. What an excellent pick. And you take those 2 offensive linemen, you mix him in there, man, that could be real good because he's faster than Joique Bell, but I think he's the same size as Joique Bell. And he played against a lot. He played some big games in college. I mean, Michigan State's success the last couple of years has been, phenomenal. They've done excellent. They played big teams, big games, top defenses. They played Stanford last year. They played Baylor this year in the bowl game, but Langford was still effective. I mean, I think that'd be a very productive pick at 5 in the 5th round. So that's who I'd go with. I think Jeremy Langford, if he's there in the 5th, if he's not there and Ty Montgomery was there and Nick O'Leary, I think I would maybe waver towards Ty Montgomery, but I'd have to go with the medical on that because Montgomery's had some knee injuries and some injury problems. If he's at all hampered by that, I think I would pull the trigger on Nick O'Leary. I think he's going to be a solid pro. That'd be huge value if Jeremy Langford wasn't there. But my pick in the 5th round would be Jeremy Langford. Okay, let's go to the 6th round. The 6th round. Now, these are all just desperation picks. You're picking guys on potential more than you are value. You're picking on them what they could be in 2 or 3 years, and you hope, man, he's going to be an all-pro. And nothing ticks me off more than when people dog our drafts. Fans will talk about Martin Mayhew's drafts and, oh, look what he did in the 6th round. Come on. There's one Tom Brady. Now, I understand Andre Ellington, who I wanted 2 years ago, was there in the 6th round, and we could have had him instead of Theo Riddick. So I would you're just taking a guy that you hope turns out. And he showed some promise maybe in college that he could transition to the next level. But with that said, I think, again, and this year in the draft, I'd like to see the Lions not take so many chances. Last year they took chances, like in the 4th and 5th round on guys that were, we took a kicker, and we needed a kicker, and he was the best kicker in the draft, and he was a bum. But taking like a guy like Larry Webster and our kicker, and we didn't. I'd like to see us take some more proven guys this year because this draft doesn't have a lot of the tweener guys or the guys that could break out huge. Well, there's always those guys, but I really don't know too many that show like, man, that guy could be really good or it could be really bad. I guess Wes Sexton would be a guy, but in the 6th round, Wes Sexton could be an option, tight end. Now, if we don't take Nick O'Leary, we end up taking Jeremy Langford in the 5th round. If Sexton's there, I mean, could he be a Shannon Sharp? I mean, people have said he reminds them of him. He's a little bit undersized. But I would like to. There's also Antoine Goodley, wide receiver from Baylor. Now, because when you play at Baylor, you're going to catch a zillion balls. So he's well schooled in how to maybe manipulate cornerbacks or whatever. He's a very polished receiver in the sense that he's caught a lot of balls. Now, he probably needs to work on his route running. He probably needs to understand a pro-style system and be able to understand the language of a pro-style system. And a lot of Baylor receivers haven't panned out a ton besides Josh Gordon. But, we know about his issues. Kendall Wright, he's okay. But I don't think that would be a terrible value there. I think he'd be a solid player. He could be like the kid out of Dallas that was taken, Kendall Williams, I think his name is. I'm drawing a blank there, so I apologize for that. He could end up like that because that was a player I really liked coming out of college. I thought he fit what the Lions wanted to do, a big receiver that had mediocre speed, kind of like Miles Austin was. Another guy that might be there in the 5th round for the Lions, I probably should have mentioned him too, is Gabe Wright, defensive tackle out of Auburn. Some draft boards have had him moving up. A week ago, he was in the 6th round, maybe in the 7th in a lot of draft boards. I really like him. I think there's, again, potential. So if he was there, potential-wise, he would be a very, very, very good value pick. So Gabe Wright wouldn't be a bad choice there. But if I was taking a player in the 6th round and he was there, and we had taken Philip Dorsett in the 2nd round, and Antoine Goodley and Gabe Wright were there, I think I'd go Gabe Wright just because that's a position we need to build a little more depth on, and I think he could be a rotational guy, and he might have a chance to make our team. And I think Goodley can make our team, but there's a little more competition at the wide receiver position for us than there is at the defensive tackle position. Now we get to the 7th round. I'm just going to throw some names out here. Malcolm Brown, running back out of Texas. He could be good. Cameron Artis-Payne, running back out of Auburn. They got him projected there. Again, Wes Sexton is possibly projected in the 7th round. I looked at one last night, and this is 2 days before the NFL draft. This is Wednesday, or actually a day before the NFL draft. You could take an offensive lineman here. A guy I kind of like a lot is the defensive tackle out of Arkansas, Darius excuse me, let me start over. That was bad. That was real bad. Darius Phelan, defensive tackle out of Arkansas. I like this guy. He's a little undersized, but he has a motor like John Randall. He is lightning quick. He just explodes off the ball. He's a fast twitch guy, and that's something that you really want on the offensive line. That Dominican Sue had that. He was a fast twitch guy, but he had all the other great ability, God-given talent that you want. Now, I'm not comparing him to a Dominican Sue, so don't misunderstand it. But I think that Darius Phelan is going to be a very, very good player in the NFL. And I would like to see the Lions possibly take him. So if they took him in the 7th, in the 6th, if they were eyeing him or becomes an undrafted free agent, Antoine Goodley might not be the bad pick, or Malcolm Brown. I mean, he was one of the top high school running backs when he came out, went to Texas, never really became what they thought he would be at Texas. But to recap all the gibberish I've given you, here's what I'd like the Lions to do, rounds 1 through 7, all the picks we talked about. Round 1, if they stay at 23, I'd like to see them take Cam Irving, offensive lineman out of Florida State. 2nd round, I'd like to see them take Philip Dorsett or Duke Johnson in the 2nd round. One of the two players. I would take Philip Dorsett if he was there over Duke Johnson. The 3rd round, I'd like to see them either take Trey Jackson out of the University of Florida State, offensive lineman, or Michael Bennett, defensive tackle from Ohio State. 5th round, I would like to see him take Jeremy Langford, running back, Michigan State. 6th round, I would like to see them take Gabe Wright, defensive tackle, Auburn. Wes Sexton, tight end, South Alabama. Or Antoine Goodley, wide receiver, Baylor. One of those three. If I had to take my choice, I think it'd be between Wes Sexton or Gabe Wright. But if we ended up taking Michael Bennett, I would go Wes Sexton. 7th round, I would like to see him take Darius Philon, defensive tackle, Arkansas. I just think he's going to be a great NFL player. Not great, excuse me. Let me take that back. Not great. A very good NFL player for a long time. Now I'd like to talk about something that's going to be maybe a little controversial to all of you, and I've gotten some bad responses to some of this. At my Twitter page, at Straight Lions Talk, STR, Lions Talk, I posted one time maybe we should trade Calvin Johnson, and the response was like I shot Calvin Johnson. Just to make it clear, I love Calvin Johnson. He's one of my favorite Lions of all time, and he's the most talented player we have. But with that said, here are a few issues. Calvin Johnson is due $23 million next year. And if I told you Calvin Johnson's going to have the same exact year this year as he had last year, with the injuries, same yardage, same touchdowns, what is everyone going to say? Might be time to start maybe looking to trade Calvin Johnson. Now, I'm a trade a guy 1 year early, and if they have great success, then I trade a guy 1 year late. Calvin Johnson could possibly draw a top 5 NFL pick. Just by himself, we might have to include a couple, maybe a 3rd round pick with it or something, but think about this scenario. Let's say this scenario works out. We offer Calvin Johnson to some teams. I would like to see maybe them go after the Raiders pick at 4, because I think the Raiders would do the deal, and they've done a lot of dumb deals in the past for a lot worse players. So if they like height, weight, speed guys, and Calvin Johnson fits that all the way. But if they could trade up and take trade Calvin Johnson and get the 4 pick and take Amari Cooper, University of Alabama receiver, that would be huge. Now remember, there's a rookie salary cap for 4 years and an option to pick up the 5th. That would help our salary cap situation tremendously. And you know what? Everyone goes, oh, what's it matter? Our salary cap's screwed up. If you get rid of Calvin Johnson, you better get rid of Matt Stafford. Not necessarily. Let me run this by you. Calvin Johnson gets double-teamed on every play, and that's the ultimate respect. But he gets blatantly double-teamed. The Patriots last year double-teamed Calvin Johnson, so he was automatically taken out of the plays. They took Darrelle Revis, and I understand not every team had 2 corners like the Patriots did last year, but I've seen other teams do this, and they put their best cornerback on Golden Tate, so it kind of limits Stafford on the outside. He doesn't really have anywhere to throw too much. He can throw into double coverage, or he can throw against the team's best corner, where sometimes the team's best corner, Golden Tate, can take advantage of, and we've seen that last year. But with that said again, then that just shrinks the field to the middle of the field for Stafford, where you watch someone like Green Bay, Jordy Nelson doesn't get double-teamed, and Jordy Nelson runs better routes than Calvin Johnson. Jordy Nelson's had far more 60-yard touchdown passes than Calvin Johnson, and he manipulates his body. Now, Calvin Johnson's not a great route runner, everybody. I think that hurts Stafford sometimes when he's throwing to him, because he didn't seem to have a problem throwing to Golden Tate last year. He didn't overthrow him very much. And if you went and looked at stats to see how many times Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate were targeted and who had more catches, I think the completion percentage would be higher on Golden Tate than it would be with Calvin Johnson. But with that said, if we could trade Calvin Johnson and get a 1st, a 2nd, and a 3rd, or possibly a 4th, just instead of the 3rd, if it went 1st, 2nd, 4th, and not 1st, 2nd, 3, but let's say that we are able to snake 1st, 2nd, 3rd, excuse me, let's go over some possible players. This is how the draft could pan out for us. Let's say we make that trade. We take Amari Cooper round 1 with the 4th overall pick. Okay, now Amari Cooper, if you ever want to watch him play, that guy dominated the SEC against top competition, and with Blake Sims throwing him the ball. I mean, come on. When Alabama hasn't had a sweet quarterback in forever. So we take Amari Cooper, that guy he just glides over the field. He is phenomenal. Now with our 23 pick, after we've taken Amari Cooper, with our second first-round pick, Cam Erving could still be there, because this would flip the draft on its head. I think that Cam Erving at 23 would be a phenomenal pick, like I've talked about. But let's not forget, we could still trade out of 23, and we could possibly trade out of the first round and pick up a first round pick next year. But let's just stay in the now, but that's just an option. Let's just say we take Cam Erving. So round 1, we have Amari Cooper and Cam Erving as our first 2 picks. Now we go to round 2, which we have 2 first round picks now. And with that, we could take Philip Dorsett with our first pick. That'd be the 5th overall pick, I believe, in the 2nd round. And I think Philip Dorsett will be there if New Orleans doesn't take him in the 1st round. So if Philip Dorsett's there, we could take Philip Dorsett with our first pick in the 2nd round. And then with our 2nd pick in the 2nd round, we could take Duke Johnson. And that covers 2 needs. We need wide receivers. And what did we get? We got the best college wide receiver in Amari Cooper. He's better than White out of West Virginia. We got the best receiver in college football. We got a great route runner and someone that can play the slot and play outside. He comes from the University of Miami. Great track record with receivers. He's Santana Moss, but more size and more speed. And I think he's a better receiver than Santana Moss, natural catcher of the ball. So that covers that need. So we have a running back in Duke Johnson, who's a phenomenal player. Now, Scott Bischoff turned me on to him. I listened to a show here in Michigan that's called 961. It's the radio station's 961, ESPN 961. Scott Belizean show, and it's one of his guests, probably the best guest he has. No offense to Jeff Risdon, he's probably the second best, but I could sit and talk to Scott Bischoff forever. So Duke Johnson I got from Scott Bischoff. I'd recommend you follow him on Twitter. It's Scott@Scott_Bischoff. He's just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. He answers your tweets. He's a good dude. And I'd love to have a beer with that guy someday and just talk football. That's a bucket list thing. And so if Scott Bischoff, if you're able to watch this show, I would love for you to get together and have a beer with you someday. That's not a stalker moment. But anyway, back to the first round. First round, Amari Cooper, Cam Erving. We need offensive linemen. We take care of that. We got the league's best receiver. We take Philip Dorsett, a game-breaking, take the top off the defense guy. Duke Johnson, running back, who we need that can help Joyce Bell, a big 1-2 punch. We take Trey Jackson in the 3rd round, more offensive line depth, because we're going to have to sign all these new free agents, and with this money freed up by Calvin Johnson, we can sign DeAndre Levy, we can sign Darius Slay, we can sign Quinn if he wants to come back, we can sign Larry Warford, we can sign Riley Reef, we can sign all these guys, and we can keep the core of our team together like the Packers do, like the Baltimore Ravens do, and all the good teams. But to recap the Calvin Johnson trade, because I'm getting off track here a little bit. Amari Cooper, Cam Erving, first 2 picks in the 1st round. So Amari Cooper, 4th overall pick. Cam Erving, 23rd overall pick. Philip Dorsett, first pick in the 2nd round. Duke Johnson, 2nd pick in the 2nd round. And Trey Jackson, 1st pick in the 3rd round. Now let's say we got another 3rd round pick. We take Michael Bennett with that pick. So we'd fill another need at defensive tackle. And then we go to the 5th round. We still don't have a 4th because Oakland gave us they gave us their 3rd, not their 4th, and we'll just play it that way. It sounds better anyway. The 5th round, I take Jeremy Langford, Michigan State. 6th round, Wes Sexton, South Alabama. And Darius Philon, defensive tackle, in the 7th round, Arkansas. So that's how I would play it if we traded Calvin Johnson. But that just gives you a couple scenarios and something to talk about. But we'll have another show. I'm going to have another show on as soon as the draft's over, and we'll discuss the players that the Lions actually took and what kind of trades happened. Okay. See you guys later.